All right, welcome everybody. Give me 1 second while I get us all set up here and more people roll in. I hope everybody's having a good start to their week. Here's our presentation for today. I'm going to be, as usual, pulling up the Q&A. So if you guys have any questions throughout this, feel free to throw them in there. So pulling that up now. So I will have this handy. Okay. And then I'm also pulling up our chats and I am going to pull up the attendee list here. So we had a record-breaking 224 people registered for today's webinar. Pretty cool to see the growth every week on this. Thank you guys for being here. And as usual, I just want you to be reminded that, you know, this is a session for you guys. So please do everything you can to extract the most value out of me as you can during this time. And I do that by opening up the question and answer and making this free flowing. A lot of times it's just me chatting with you guys and talking to myself for an hour. And I hope that you guys take something away. I see a lot of repeat visitors here. So I would hope that, that means that you guys are um, taking some stuff away and you're seeing some value and you're coming back each week. So really what we're going to be going into today, and I usually give a few more minutes here to allow for some stragglers to join us. But today, I think I'm just going to go straight into it. And we have some cool stuff planned for today. Before I kick it off, as usual in the chat, courses and webinars. As a thank you for the people that joined today, y'all get access to a 7-day free trial of the AI Blueprint community. I'll chat more about that later, but it's basically approaching 100 members. The price does go up after 100 members from $10 a month to $20 a month for people that want access to the daily AI news that I post in there for construction and so on. But let's talk about the important thing, which is today, and what we're going to be going over. So, really, there's a lot of hype around agents right now. And that was like a webinar I did 2 weeks ago on OpenClaw. But I wanted to do a presentation because I know what people want to use it for is going to vary. Whether you're in, an architecture firm, you're a GC, so on. Two, people's technical abilities are going to vary. Some people are getting really comfortable with AI and these tools, and some people not so much. And then three, it's like, why overcomplicate it if you don't need to? So there's a lot of different options for us these days, various capable abilities for the AI agent, but also various capable abilities for us, and how technical we want to get, how technical we want to talk, how technical we want to work. So I wanted to get into all of these being semi-no code, and we're going to get a little more technical as the presentation goes on. But this is built to be a comprehensive guide to leverage no-code AI agents and construction workflows, and do what we're all trying to do at the end of the day, which is improve our efficiency and automation without having to become a nerd like Zach. So the takeaway today is just going to be about building powerful AI agents for your guys' business or your position, and making it so it's accessible to everybody. That's my goal here in this presentation. I don't care if you guys have never written a line of code in your life, or if you're an expert developer, this will give you that guide to at least build something without that code. And by leveraging those existing workflows within your companies, and then I'm going to basically have you think about, what you're already doing day to day, and then we're going to connect it over to the kind of like user-friendly interfaces and tools that you can implement. That's going to be our path forward here. So part one is thinking about things in agentic flows, and I want us to come up with our use case first. So many professionals hesitate to adopt AI due to misconceptions that it requires technical expertise, complex coding. However, when the focus shifts from technology to understanding and optimizing, just everything is step-by-step workflows. I always tell people train an agent like you train an employee. AI integration becomes more straightforward and it really benefits all of us. So usually, I see some struggles here, especially when I'm meeting with people in our AI community. I do like an office hours every Thursday morning for a full hour sometimes. I'll just sit there and I'll just work with people through their build outs, through their processes, even if they're doing the most basic things like trying to standardize the procedures and the rules within their own organization around how AI can be used. I'll just sit there and work through these things with them. And that's where I get a lot of my insights here. And, one of the big things is, the perception of complexity. Usually when I get people in and I put them on a super easy to use platform to build, um, that just goes away. You don't need technical skills, understanding, your workflows, your standard operating procedures. When you hire a new employee and you train them, these things already exist, and that's how you're going to set your agent up. Um, you know, AI agents can also simplify processes here. Sorry, my co-founder giving me a call there. I'll call him back. Now, what is an AI agent in construction terms here? So this is going to be what we want the agent to be able to kind of digest, right? So receive these inputs, whether it's instructions, whether it's documents, whether it's PDFs, whether it's emails, whether it's whatever. We need to process information always. So we're always processing, we're always crunching, where is this project at? What's up? Are these vendors on site? Where's this? Takes automated actions. So this is the agentic side of things. So now we're getting into actionable items, and agents are all about actions. Human in the loop can be built in. Human in the loop allows you guys to basically say, pause here before you take an action, and I need to hit go or no go. So that's called a human in the loop framework where you guys can actually have the agent go, 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 and then built in safeguards that it comes back to you and says, hey, I'm thinking about going to do this. Can I go do it? And you say yes or no. So that way it doesn't do things that you wouldn't want it to do. Examples of input types is basically what we would be training it. So you have your training data here, and then examples of processing. So again, training. So now we're taking this, we're giving it examples of different things we're going to have it see. Now we're taking this and we're giving it examples of, different processing powers or different examples of like outputs of the processing. And then we give it examples of like what those actions look like. So divide this in half here. Think about this as like, this is the agent, this is the kind of like training for that agent. And it's the same thing if we're training an employee, right? So we're going to give them examples of what we've done in the past, or they're going to watch us work, right? So all of that stuff is just like training a new member of your team. Now we want to build out this like workflow mapping here. So I've built out kind of like a four-step process for you guys to properly workflow out your agents. And I'm putting this ahead of the platforms because no matter the platform you're going to use, this needs to be the same. Build this four-step process out, and no matter what platform you guys go to, you're going to have more success in building within that platform if you plan ahead of time. Think about, if you guys are going to go build a 10-story building, guess what? You're probably going to map it out. You're probably going to scope it out. You're going to get drawings. You're going to get plans. You're going to get specs. You need to do the same thing when you're building agents, right? So if you get into an agent and you try to just, especially with the automated actions, if you try to get in there before you plan it out and you just start kind of like building and connecting things, it's not going to work out well. I've done it many times because I've tried to save myself time. Like I'm just going to start building the 10-story building. Like I know what I want it to look like at the end. Like I might as well just have, the contractors come and start building it. And it's cost me more time because now I'm struggling and I'm getting frustrated and I'm like about to quit on this project rather than if I planned it out properly, I would save myself quite a bit of headache prior to the build. So let's go. So this four-step workflow provides a structured approach to designing workflows for AI agents in construction. And we're going to break down those workflows into triggers, information collection, intelligence, and actions. These teams can basically use this to streamline processes, enhance efficiency. So here we go. These are the four steps. You're going to want to know what's the trigger? What gets this agent to turn on? What gets this agent to start working? If that's receiving an email, if that's receiving a message from your team, you can program these things to accept text messages. If your team operates in, Microsoft Teams, or if your team operates in Slack, whatever messaging platform your team operates in, you can have it triggered based on, keywords or, requests and stuff like that. So we need to know the trigger. That's the first thing. What hits the on button? Step two, information collection. So this thing needs to make a decision and do something at the end of the day. But when us humans need to make a decision, we gather information, we weigh out the information, then we make our decision. The agents can be no different. Think of this just like you think. So, what information does that agent need to ingest? Once you've kind of kicked on that trigger, now it needs to go gather the correct information or read the document that it's been uploaded to or, check something. It needs information to be gathered and then it needs to go make its decision, right? So intelligence or the decision, this is going to analyze that data that it's gathered, whether it's like going and looking up data on its own or whether it's just looking at the data that's been uploaded, and then it makes the decision. And then step four is actions. So this executes the tasks based on the analysis of the data that it had. So it's pretty simple. You need to outline what is going to turn this thing on, what information does it need, where does it get that information, is it uploaded, is it in your filing system, what information does it need, how can it access it, and then you have like a system prompt that helps it do its decision. If this, then do this. If this, then do that. This is the goal, act as this. So that's where a lot of the prompting comes in. And then step four is the execution. So you're going to give it access to the tools that it needs to execute for you. So it's pretty simple when you start breaking it down like this. A lot of people think AI agents and then that's like as deep as we go. But if you think of it as these like four little steps here, it becomes a lot simpler. So I talked through all these. Cool. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the trigger. I want to give you guys some examples. We're going to blast through these. So, if an email arrives and it contains the wording, request for information or if our RFI, it can be basically triggered based on that. Now it can go start working, right? If you have a form submission, so you guys can have forms on your websites, you can have forms internal to your team. If it's a change order request, or if it's a subcontract creation request or something, right? You can build out your own little forms. You can use Google Forms. You can have Lovable program a form for you guys. But a form submission could trigger this. Uploading a file to a little portal or a folder could trigger this. Adding a row to a spreadsheet could trigger this. A submission of a safety report, anything can trigger this. There's really no limit. It could be a message, it could be a keyword, it could be a phone call, it could be, a certain day. I want to trigger this agent to run every morning at 8 a.m. So when I get into my office, I know this task is done and I need to do it every morning. So that's all examples of triggers. And then we need the information collection. So it needs to absorb as much information as you can. And this is an important piece that I want to kind of like just give you guys more context to, I see a lot of people struggle with AI adoption in construction specifically, due to the need for project specific information. You get a PM and maybe they're a little technical. They're not as technical as other people on the team, and they use ChatGPT once or they used Claude once, and they were like, man, this doesn't work for me. This isn't good. Like, I don't like this, or whatever it is. And it's because it probably gave them a generic answer that they're like, this is garbage. I can't use it. And I think that a lot of constructions, friction with AI comes from project information not being inside of this like pre-prompt, or it not having the context that it needs to understand where the project is, what's happened, what's the history, how many change orders is, all that stuff needs to be in its kind of memory to know, hey, we need to do this or we need to do that. So we need project name. We need, if you guys have a number tracking system for your RFIs, you need that, trade classifications, drawing, reference validation, description clarity. If there's dates associated with things, all of these files and all this information, depending on the task, needs to be accessible to this agent. So keep that in mind. You can't get mad at the agent for making a bad decision if you haven't given it the data or given it access to that data. The intelligence is going to be kind of around this like a system prompt. And a system prompt is basically like if you guys have taken or looked at the advanced prompting class inside of our AI community, there is a big kind of emphasis on context or pre-prompt work. And this pre-prompt work in the simplest way that you guys have probably all seen is like act as a project manager on a federal construction job, right? So you're giving it kind of a role, and every time you prompt, you're telling it to act as this, act as that, act as this. Here's some context, here's background about the project, or here's where to go look for those things. And what a system prompt does is it basically is like the personality. You're giving this AI agent a personality, and you're giving it a personality so it thinks like this every single time. You put it in one time, and it thinks to that system prompt every time that it goes to take action, right? So you're going to create a system prompt, and I think that the most effective system prompts for AI agents are built out into steps, right? So if you think about this, these are some examples of what you're going to ask it to do. But let's take, you know, to rewrite field notes or something like that, or identify schedule conflicts, right? So if I'm going to identify schedule conflicts here, what do I need? And you're going to say, step one, you need to go to this document that references like the original schedule. Step two, you're going to need to comb through this email inbox to understand, what's happening as far as project timelines, delays, anything like that, who's on site. Step three, go through the daily report, see who's actually been on site. Step four, analyze the daily reports against the original schedule and try to figure out, if the correct trades are getting their work done and the timeline that we originally associated with it. And then step five, give me that report. So you're building this out into steps. And my construction expertise is more in the like back office document management. So hopefully my example there made sense, but you're just thinking in steps, and you need to tell it every single time that this agent gets switched on, okay, here's your steps to go accomplish this goal. So if you're having this like schedule conflict check happen every morning at 8 a.m., and then it gives you like a one-line email letting you know what those schedule conflicts are, that's the kind of like intelligence and personality or system prompt that you're going to give to us. And each platform that I'm going to talk about asks for it in a little bit different of a way, but you're going to need to give this each time. All right, and step four is the action. So once you've given it the kind of analysis, here's how you do it. Now you need to give it oftentimes it's called a tool. So you get access to a tool to send the email, update the log, notify this person, text this person, email this person, create this test, file this away, generate this order. All of that stuff becomes accessible via tool access. And that's where the platforms are going to differ the most that I'm going to jump into later is how easy is it for you to give access to this tool for it to go do something? And with more control and more ability comes more technical ability. So the more complex you want this thing to go act, the more complex your code needs to be, or your technical ability to get it to go act is. But you'd be surprised with, I think the most simplest version is Zapier agents. You'd be surprised how much these things can do even with the most basic platforms. All right, so let's talk ChatGPT first. So ChatGPT does have an agent in there, believe it or not. It's not necessarily what I would call a automated agent, but it is an agent at the end of the day. It's an AI agent. So in the landscape of AI, ChatGPT serves as an intelligence engine primarily, and it provides those critical insights and processing capabilities while other platforms handle more automated tasks. ChatGPT excels in understanding and generating human-like text, making it ideal for these manual draftings. Or you can send an agent to be to like go research something. And I've used this agent in live webinars in the past, but I wouldn't consider this like a fully agentic system just in ChatGPT. You basically have to say, okay, go log into my email, do this, do that, and then I will hit the send button or whatever you want it to do. But you need to prompt it every single time, which kind of defeats the purpose of like autonomous agents or employees that work 24/7. So ChatGPT, it'll draft those emails, it'll rewrite things, it'll summarize things, it'll extract data, it'll create tasks, it'll generate minutes, it'll conduct risk analysis, all that stuff we're used to, right? Nothing super exciting. Very, very minimal, if any, technical ability really needed for ChatGPT. AI-driven tasks are accessible to a wide audience with this with low to moderate skill requirement. In my opinion, their AI agent is cool sometimes. I maybe use it maybe once every other week, but I've never been wowed. It's more fun just to watch it click around on a web screen. And I think we'll have some time. I'll show you guys how that one looks, and I'll try to pull up these other platforms as well. So automation platforms is really what I wanted to get into today. So we're going to go through the various automation platforms that can be utilized to streamline your workflows. Each platform is going to offer a different unique strength and weakness, allowing construction companies to select the one that's going to fit best with you and your technical capabilities. All right, Zapier. This is the most user-friendly one. If you want to get your feet wet, you can go to Zapier. It's very, very cost effective, and they've been around for a long time. So Zapier started out as an automation platform, and they were really an integration hub. And I've used Zapier for like 6 or 7 years now. And usually you could have it say, oh, I want to connect my email to this. And when I send an email to this address, always go log it into the record for this customer, something like that, where it's automated, right? If then this. Zapier has fully shifted to like agentic AI. Like it's they're not even really entertaining so much or marketing their existing like automation platform. They're like, we're an AI company. So the strengths of Zapier, like I said, it's going to be very user friendly. It's going to excel in creating very straightforward integrations between various applications. It allows users to create automated workflows, which they call zaps, that trigger specific actions when certain events occur, making it perfect for individuals and small teams looking to streamline those repetitive tasks without needing extensive technical knowledge. Now, since Zapier has been around for a very long time, and they have been working, through these like integrations for a very long time, you can now use AI agentic workflows in a like I think they have like thousands of apps connected and thousands of different websites. So like QuickBooks, Sage, Procore, all of those are in there. They're all going to have like different limitations, but I think Zapier, while being the most user friendly, is going to have the most integrations for you guys to be able to easily connect things in a very user friendly way that requires no technical ability, and you guys can start moving the needle, at least getting your feet wet inside of like an agentic kind of flow. So the limitations of Zapier, though, is particularly when it comes to the scalability and complex logic integration. As businesses grow and you guys get more advanced and more technical and you're more comfortable with this agentic AI world, there you may find that, hey, like every time Zapier does an action, I get charged a zap. And then its capabilities might fall short for your advanced workflows. And that's what I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, where I was like, hey, we're going to have some really easy to use things, but with ease of use comes loss of, customizability and loss of, flexibility here. So, but, the more skills you have, the more comfortable you become, the more technical ability you have, the more webinars you come to, the more you're going to be able to control that and do some more advanced things. So let's talk about Make. And Make, I think, is a good middle ground platform. After Make, I'm going to say that you might need to feel a little comfortable with like looking at code or at least copy and pasting code into ChatGPT. So Make is a really good option, in my opinion. So the strengths of Make is it's ideal for users looking to create complex automations that involve multiple steps in conditional logic with their workflows. It provides a user-friendly visual interface design so you can design your workflows easily, making it accessible for even those with limited technical skills. Now, Make gets into this world of like I'm going to present like talk about N8N in the next slide, but Make is a good middle ground between Zapier and N8N. N8N, I think you need to know a little bit of like you just need to feel comfortable with code. You don't even need to know code. You just need to feel a little comfortable like copy and pasting or deleting a couple of things. Not it's not going to break anything, but you just need to get it to work. Might feel challenging versus Make makes it very, very easy. So with Make, your user interface is going to look very similar to Zapier, where you're like, okay, app number one. App number one is our Teams channel. When our Teams channel sends a message in this, group, trigger this to start. And once it starts, the first thing that it needs to do is it needs to go look up information one, two, three, and four. And that's in our shared drive. The next step, you're going to build this out in very stepped blocks, right? And then the next step is like, if this, so if it finds all the information, go think. If it's missing any information, message back in the Teams chat for clarity before you go think. So it's very much a step by step, very easy, very visual process. And they do have a lot of integrations, and they're coming out with more integrations every single day. But Make is a super easy, I think everybody could be able to use it. Zapier, everybody could definitely use it. But Make gives you that a little bit more flexibility, and it's truly they're truly trying to build like these agentic AI agents. Zapier is also, but they're kind of taking an automation platform and trying to like push it towards AI versus Make is like an AI agentic workflow first focused platform. So if the apps, if the drives, if the messaging channels that you guys need to work in already integrate with Make, that's the first step. Make sure that what you need it to connect to can connect to it. If it integrates with Make correctly, I would definitely point you guys in the direction of trying Make first if you feel like you don't have a huge level of technical abilities. So the limitations of Make are going to be a little bit of a learning curve. It's a little more complex than Zapier, but I think everybody can do it, especially those that come to these webinars. For users that are new to automation platforms, it can feel a little like you have to wrap your head around this. How is this going to work? And that's what that four-step framework is trying to help you guys understand, that I mentioned earlier in this call. But while it offers these powerful capabilities, users may need to invest some time into understanding the platform's features to fully leverage its potential. No code is needed, but you're going to need to understand, okay, if this, then this, if that, then that. And you're going to have to like think through that four-step framework pretty thoroughly before you go into Make to have a fun time in Make. If you go into Make without your four-step framework planned out, not going to lie, you might not have so much fun. Okay. N8N. And like this, N8N was one of my favorites for a long time. And by a long time, I mean like AI hasn't been out that long, but in the world of AI, it was a long time. So it's like I was really building heavily with N8N, and I think N8N is a very, very powerful tool that, almost everybody can really do. And it's also in a way open source. So if you guys came to the OpenClaw AI agent webinar, open source just means the code's free. And when the code's free, you can download it and put it on your own server. And then you can build this agentic world within your own servers. So if you're under any security compliance, you can be sure that nothing's ever going to touch the internet. This is only working on your environment, your data, your servers, if it's set up correctly. So N8N, I think, is going to be very, very powerful for a lot of you. Um, if you're willing to just invest a little bit of time in becoming that like more technical type of person. It's not, you don't need to be a developer. You don't need to know how to write code. You can still use this with this, especially with the help of ChatGPT or Claude if you guys are messaging back and forth. So let's talk about the strengths of N8N. N8N is a open source workflow automation tool designed for enterprises needing customized solutions. It allows users to create complex workflows through a visual interface, making it ideal for organizations that want tailored integrations and extensive control over their processes. Man, that sounds like construction, right? Everybody's more of an enterprise vibe. Everybody is trying to have their very complex or very extensive or very thorough processes, agentified. And really, what N8N is going to allow you to do is it's going to give you that great flexibility while still keeping a really easy to use interface. And N8N also comes out of the box with pre-built integrations as well. And the other good thing about N8N is, let's say there's an integration that doesn't exist. Let's say you're using Buildertrend, or you're using Vista by Trimble, or you're using some other platform out there, right? For your project management or your accounting, and you really need this to connect to that. All of those platforms have what's called publicly available API documentation. And API documentation is just a fancy nerd way of talking about a way to connect into your platform, right? So it's an integration, it's instructions on how to integrate with us. That's really what this is. Now, in terms of N8N and integrations, if it doesn't have your, tool set integrated into here, I've seen people, I haven't done it myself, but I've seen people basically tell ChatGPT or Claude to go figure out the integration by reading all the documentation that, let's use Buildertrend, for example. Buildertrend has all of their API documentation public, and now you can basically instruct AI to go give you the instructions on how to get this to integrate into N8N. So what I'm trying to get at here is, if the integration doesn't exist, it's not so hard. The documentation is usually public. You basically have AI help you connect it into N8N, and then you go from there. So that's really what we're looking at in terms of being able to integrate. N8N gives you a really, really in-depth control over, databases, over AI chat, over document storage, over document retrieval. It's just like, it's hard for me to put into words, the like extra ability that you get here by just being willing to do a little bit more technical work or have a little bit longer of a learning curve. I think if you're willing to do like maybe 20% more learning, you're able to unlock probably 200% more power compared to make, if that makes sense. So, N8N, huge lever to pull on as far as agentic AI goes. Very controllable. You can test things very accurately. You can basically train it on a bunch of data. You can give it great system prompts. They have a lot of AI tools, and their AI chat there that actually helps you troubleshoot these things is very helpful. I can't really say enough good things about N8N. It's not that common, and for some reason, like everybody's talking about, all these other platforms. This is like a open source. It's free. Put it on your own server. Don't connect it to the internet. Full security. Your information is not getting leaked, and you get this really powerful tool to build AI agents. I've done full webinars on N8N, and we've like analyzed everything from like certificates of insurance with N8N to looking up project details and configuring a full critical path schedule and stuff like that on N8N. And N8N's platform is a little like technical, but guess what? Only one person needs to build it, and then the rest of the team can interact with it over text message, over Teams, over email. All of the kind of behind the scenes thinking and stuff like that and testing and stuff. Only one person needs to build it, and the rest of the team can benefit from that. So I would say N8N is like a great tool. I've debated doing a full course on N8N in the AI community. I just did one on custom GPTs. But I just don't see many people. It's just not it's not sexy. It's like not a claw bot, right? And for that reason, it doesn't get a lot of love. But it's open source. It's just so many good positives here, and it's very powerful. It can do almost anything that you probably need it to do as far as an agentic AI goes. N8N is able to do it. It's just, are you willing to put in the time to get it to do it? That's like my opinion of N8N. And they have great human in the loops. They have great guardrail frameworks that's going to protect you from it doing anything that you don't want it to do. So go check it out. And before I hype it up too much, let's talk about limitations really quick. Setup can be intricate, like I mentioned, requires a deeper technical understanding to fully leverage its capabilities. Users may face challenges configuring it correctly and integrating with existing systems, which might basically need a higher level of skills compared to these other platforms. But like I said, with greater tasks that you're asking it to do, greater technical skills are going to be needed here. And you can still use N8N and use it to do a very simple project at first and then do more complex stuff later. Clawbot, OpenClaw. I just did a whole webinar on this like 2 weeks ago, but I wanted to just put it in here because everybody's hyping it up and everyone's talking about it. And yeah, it's pretty cool. And especially since it's been built by a single developer. So industry focused, fast deployment. Clawbot is designed specifically for the construction industry in a way, because it can also operate on internal servers as well. AI workflows that enhance efficiency, streamline operations, all that good stuff, right? But the limitations, it's going to lack some flexibility of custom built solutions. It's not going to have a ton of integrations yet. It's an open code project. I don't think for the average construction company that it has enough guardrails around safety, compliance, data leakage. You're giving it a lot of control with not a lot of guardrails often. It's not in a user platform. It's like install this code and look and run it on your local machine. Cool. But for you to do that safely and for you to do that properly, I think requires more technical ability than the internet is leading people to believe. But users with very unique needs may find it challenging to adopt this outside of these predefined workflows. So Yeah, I just wanted to like mention it. I did a whole webinar on it. So if you guys are interested in watching that full hour where I just talk about Clawbot for an hour, go ahead and check that out. I think I posted it to YouTube, but it's also available in the AI community. So let's talk. What are we going to use? When are we going to use it? I use multiple different types of agents for multiple different types of things. Why complicate something when I don't need to? If it's a very simple task, I'm just going to use Zapier. I'm going to use Make. If it's something where I want more control, I'll use N8N. So selecting the right tools for you and your specific position, your specific construction company is critical for leveraging these agents effectively in your workflows. Each tool is going to serve a specific purpose based on complexity and functionality, and it's going to ensure that all companies, regardless of technical expertise, can implement these AI solutions where they are needed. So let's talk about use cases. AI agents are going to basically be integrated into these different use cases in different types of ways. So let's talk about, which framework that we might want to use depending on what the task is. So let's talk estimating, for example. It needs to be able to compare bids. It needs to detect any anomalies. It needs to detect any like missing things in the bids. And it needs clarification email drafting functionality. This I would definitely use for N8N. N8N is going to be able to access, for example, multiple different files. It's going to be able to put all of those files into a database. It's going to be able to think about those files. It's going to be able to then go say, okay, if I'm missing this, go look at that. And then it's going to be able to draft the email. And you could have it potentially send the email too, but then you could build a human in the loop framework to stop and say, human, go approve this email before I go. RFI routing agent. So, extracting the trade details, identifying the urgency level, updating the project logs, notifying the project manager. This is something that I think Make could probably get done. Uh, Extracting information out of documents, pretty simple. Make has a cool little AI agent that could do that in one click. Identifying the urgency, same thing. It's just taking all of that information it has extracted and then kind of like placing an urgency level against that. Our updating the project logs, very simple. You just give it access to where it needs to go update whatever platform that you guys have. And then notifying the project manager could be as simple as sending him a notification over text, email, or even giving it a phone call. Make can do that as well with their integration. It's pretty cool. Safety monitoring agent use case. So voice to text transcription capabilities. So this is basically like you could have this on job site. You could have this also doing like video analysis, stuff like that. This is more of like an N8N flow, more complex, more thinking, more different kind of like scenarios. Then we have a schedule risk agent use case. So you basically what you guys are seeing me do is just think through, okay, how many steps, how many controls, how many pieces of information, how many different like levels of thinking does this need to go to? How many different like workflows or if-thens are there in this? And the more that we have in terms of complexity, the higher I'm going in that like hierarchy of technical ability as far as platforms go, right? So this particular agent would need to monitor project timelines, identify the bottlenecks, alert the stakeholders, facilitate timely decision making, enhance communication, right? So this needs to gather all of the different timelines for the different trades, identify who's on time versus who's behind schedule, identify, okay, if this person's behind, then that messes up our critical path over here, and this is going to get pushed out. And then who does it notify? Okay, well, if this is specific to, this trade, I'm going to go notify this specific person in the company. And if the critical path is thrown off by more than 10 days, I'm going to notify the CEO, stuff like that. Okay, it's going to have conditions in there. Alerting stakeholders and then facilitating the decision making. Okay, here is my best course of action to correct this. You could have this happen. You could have this work done in parallel, and then that would solve this time delay. And then enhancing that communication where it's just constantly being able to summarize and push out, summarize and push out. And you could have this run every morning. You could have this run every week, whatever you want. But this you could see is gathering a lot of information from a lot of different places, and then it's messaging a lot of different people based on different kind of inputs or outputs. So if you guys want to take any guesses, go ahead, but I'm going to say this would be an end-to-end. All right, and then I think this is the last one. Yeah. So change order assistance, automate change order drafting, streamline those approval processes. So drafting basically is probably going to come from some sort of email, some sort of document, right? So basically then drafting up that agreement and then sending it to the proper person for approval. It can all happen over email. They hit approve. And then the agent says, okay, when I get an approval email or a word, approve in this, I'm good to send this out. I can upload it into this signature integration, maybe contracts connected. I'm going to go click the button in contracts connected to go execute this change order with this vendor. So this one, I would also rely on N8N. You could probably get this done in Make too, but N8N would have more access for more information. This is more complex of a process here. All right, so let's talk about like implementing this. I'm going to give you guys a quick little roadmap, just like I did for the four-step framework. And this little roadmap here is going to provide more of a structured approach to implementing these AI agents in your processes. And if you integrate these into these phases, I think that you can effectively identify these pain points, map these workflows better, and integrate these AI technologies and get actual adoption. And I'm going to try to blast through this because I want to show you guys a couple of I want to show you guys these platforms and their websites, and let's talk about them. And I also want to be able to answer any questions. So phase one, you're going to identify your pain point. We want a very specific challenge. We don't want to make this too broad. We're not going to say you're now a contract administrator. Do everything a contract administrator does. That's not how agents work. Agents need to know, okay, you're a change order agent. Your job is to receive emails, and when they say the word change order in them, your job is to draft that change order based on that information. If you don't have that information, your job is to go get that information from places one, two, or three. And once you draft it, send it to Zach for approval. Once he says he's approved it, send that thing. You want to assess the impact on your workflow. So, make sure that you're investing time into things that are going to move the needle for you. Make sure your team is going to like leverage this stuff before you go build it. Sometimes these build outs do take quite a bit of time. And then you want to document everything. The more you can put into your system prompt, the better. All right. We want to map out the workflow. So this is that, think about the four steps, but you want to identify those key processes, visualize the flow of information that it needs, define the triggers, what's going to get this thing turned on, incorporate feedback. So you're going to start testing it. You're going to say, this was good, this was bad, this was good, this was bad. Here's an example input to put in the system prompt so it knows exactly how to spit out the inputs from now on. And then creating visual workflows actually has helped me in the past where I'm like, okay, this goes to Zach first. And when Zach says yes, it goes this way. But if this is missing this information, it should have texted Blake and should have got information from Blake to get back to Zach to get that process, that thing approved because Blake is the holder of that information. Start simple is my best advice here. If you guys have not built an AI workflow before, don't create a crazy complex beast. The key thing I want you guys to know is like once you do one, it's an avalanche effect where you're going to feel confident. You're going to get to do your second one. You're going to be able to do your third one. You're going to be able to do your fourth one. And I want you guys to feel that confidence and build that confidence over time. You can integrate different AI LLMs per, task type, let's say. So if I'm going to do something that's, if I'm going to do something that's a little bit more complex, I might use Claude, right? But you can basically plug in your different AI LLMs depending on what you like the most into Make or into N8N. So these LLMs are working off what you're used to and what you're happy with working with. We all have kind of some sort of bias or relationship with our different LLMs that we're working with. And it uses them in the background to process these thoughts and process these actions and process the outputs. Intelligence layers is going to be kind of like the phase four of your build out. So integrate data and analytics tools, implement these different like models, and you're going to see different like you can call them nodes, but they're different steps in the end-to-end workflow that you can actually train the model to get more and more intelligent or get that workflow to be more and more intelligent. Um, we basically want to have it make the right decisions. So as we test this, we want to enhance its decision-making process. That's also like a little like box in these platforms. It's like a little app. You click on the app, you open it up, and you help it make better decisions. Okay, I saw that it missed this policy. How can I get it to make sure that it checks for this policy every single time? Predictive analytics and automated risk assessments. Both of these are pre-built into like Make and N8N, so you don't really need to worry about, building these out, but you're going to be able to see how these things are running, what decisions they're making in the log history of, what it's done. And then I want you guys to be able to like scale this, right? So enable those more complex more workflows, integrate multiple tools, optimize your resource allocation, enhance data-driven decisions, automate those repetitive tasks. Each one of these kind of pulls the lever, and I'm moving kind of quick here because I'm running out of time, but each one of these is going to pull a lever to unlock either more efficiency, more complex behaviors with your AI agent, or it's just going to give your AI agent more information to act on. All right, and then AI agents should never be looked at as done. You're not going to build it and send it out to the world and say we're done with it. At Contracts Connected, every single one of our AI agents that we build is very like we're always iterating, we're always improving, we're giving it more data, we're trying to train it, we're trying to find those edge cases of like, oh, there was this little nuance on this document that caused it not to catch this thing. So you want to analyze its performance always. You want to identify its bottlenecks or where it's being inefficient or where it's just not doing what you thought it would do. And you want to go back and adjust that prompt. Go back and adjust that little step. Say, okay, if you don't have this, then go do this. If you don't have this, then go email this person. Getting feedback from the real users out there. What we do at contractsconnected.com is we're always trying to meet with users. We're always trying to ask users what they're thinking, where things are becoming easier and where they're not kind of hitting, and gathering that feedback from the people that are actually out there using it, other than yourself, because they might put in a different input than you and they might get something wildly different. And you just need to build again around those safeguards, refining the process, and then implement those adjustments iteratively. All right. I wanted to quickly show you guys. So we have Zapier here. We have Make here. I'm not doing very good on there. Paperclip. Okay. And then we have N8N here. All right. And I need to move this down a little bit. Okay, so first off, Zapier, like I mentioned, the easiest one, and they got me in their little ad funnel here, so let me get out of that. Easiest one, but also I would say most limited one. They have a ton of integrations, 8,000 plus integrations. So they've been around the longest. They're the easiest to use, least amount of code needed, but they have quite a bit of different AI automations that they've built out. So this is going to be that most user-friendly workflow. You can connect into 8,000 different applications already. The likelihood of the software that you guys use internal to your operations is probably in here. Make is a little bit newer, but Make is agentic agents first. Zapier started as an automation platform, then went AI agents. This is an AI agent framework that is that perfect middle ground between Zapier's easy to use flexibility and N8N's powerful, adaptability. So this is a good kind of middle ground here. I've used it a little bit, but honestly, and they have a really cool interactive demo here that I was playing around with, but you could see how you're going to basically build these out in steps. So you're going to say, okay, I want this to operate off of, Gemini 3. You are this. This is our system prompt that I was talking about with you guys earlier. Here's the knowledge. So you're going to have all of this pre-existing information of how we work. Here's an example of a change order. Here's an example of an RFI response, all that kind of stuff. And then you create steps. So agents don't guess, they use tools. So you give it access to tools. Now you're giving it access to go scan the web. You let the agent decide, or you build out, what you want it to do. And then you can have it basically test itself and run itself and work through this. So here we go. We have more steps. This is a router. So if it finds that it needs to ask Blake, it'll go to Slack. If it finds that it needs to send a notification to Zach, maybe it uses Gmail. So you connect all these tools in, and then you can build out your flow. N8N operates very, very similarly. You can see quite a bit less in terms of integrations, but remember, I said you guys can build your own integrations, not a problem. It's super easy. But here you can see, build your first agent. This is going to show me probably a preview of the build out. So explore it. I want to just show you guys this. All right. So in here, you could see the trigger. I don't know if I can zoom in on a specific piece, but here's a trigger. The trigger is marked with a lightning strike, and that means this is when the agent turns on. The agent turns on when it gets a message. Next, your agent now gets a few different tools. It gets tools to Gemini. This is what the processing. It's going to think through Gemini's model. It's going to write to you back in Gemini's model. It's going to analyze in Gemini's model. Then you give it a memory. So now it has conversation history, it has document history. And then you give it what we call tools. Tools, you can give it unlimited tools. You can give it tools could look like, okay, you have access to our shared drive. Okay, you have access to my email. Okay, you have access to my calendar. And this is going to be able to use all these different tools to think through something and then give you that final answer. So this is, you can see just based on the UI UX here, the design of this, you can see how it's a little bit technical. All these UI UXs really kind of reflect how technical they are. Zapier being the easiest, Make being the next easiest, and so on. And I'm happy to take some more questions. I actually have a meeting with our AI team, our developers, about an AI agent framework, literally like in 1 minute. So I'm going to keep chatting about AI agents here in just a sec, but it's for document management for construction companies, contracts connected. But I did want to just reiterate, if I haven't seen you guys in this AI community, I would love to see you guys here. If you're getting any value from this, that 7-day free trial will give you even more value. I try to post, every day or so. I create very specific, little PDFs and guides here that basically give you guys insights, tell you about AI news. I also have a course in here, beginner guide to AI, if you guys are just getting started. And then I also have our advanced prompting course. This is a great one to also kind of level you up in your day-to-day use with AI. And then I have custom GPTs here. There's a ton of lessons in here. I think we're getting close to 100 different lessons on AI, and we have members all over the world. So if you guys haven't become part of this yet, I strongly urge you, get in there, try it out. With that trial, thank you guys for coming. And with that trial, go watch every single course and cancel. It's free. You have nothing to lose. So I might cry, but at least you guys got something out of it. And I build these courses, I build these webinars to give you guys value at the end of the day. If you have any ideas on presentations, things you want to watch me build, whatever it is, I do these for you. This is all stuff that I already know, but I spend the time to create these presentations and spend the time on these webinars to help level everybody else up. And if there's anything that you feel like would be useful to you, you just got to let me know. And I'm happy to build these out for people in the industry that are, looking to, level things up as far as AI goes. That's time. I got to go meet with our developers at contractsconnected.com and build out some agents for back office construction paperwork, agentic automation. And if you guys need me, you know where to find me. You can join this, message me. I'm very responsive. And otherwise, find me on LinkedIn. And I hope you guys have a great rest of your week. I will see you next Tuesday. Thank you, guys.